rolls over to Linda, and she will talk about maintaining caregiver wellness.
Thank you, Pam. Good morning, everyone. So I fall also along with you as a parent as well. I have a 14-year-old. My daughter Faith is my youngest, and she was born and has brought me to the place where I am today by being born with something called tuberous sclerosis complex, and she is considered medically frail. She has severe and intractable seizures of many multiple types. She has autism and is nonverbal. She has GI issues that has caused the need for a G-tube. She has severe ataxia, so she travels quite a bit in a wheelchair, although she is ambulatory. She can make her needs known, but she has no communication officially developed, although she can communicate with her eyes. She can point to favored items, and those of us who know her well do know what she wants, and she is an absolute joy to us, and she's been our greatest teacher, and those who have come to know her know that she is highly intelligent. She can receptively understand pretty much everything that is said to her, although expressively she cannot communicate her needs. Thankfully, we do not have behaviors as a result of that lack of communication, but we do our best as a result to make her needs to get her needs met. I also fall into the other part of the age range there because we have a 20-year-old daughter who attends the University at Buffalo. She's changed her major multiple times. She's in Health and Human Services now. She is a senior there. I think she's focusing on gerontology, but her true love has fallen into ASL interpreting. So who knows where that's going to take her. I hope she goes far with it. She's incredibly gifted with it. So she's quite a joy, and she's another gift in our lives. So going forward with this training, again, I want to thank you for joining us. I wanted to give you that background so that you know where I'm coming from as a parent. I also have my degree in social work. I've been here at Starbridge. We merged with LDA last year. Previously, I was part of the Advocacy Center. I'm going into my 11th year of employment here. Prior to that, I was a stay-at-home mom because of Faith's needs. Prior to that, though, my background was in social work at more of a skilled nursing level, skilled nursing home level. So I was working with the elderly, but my path changed when my youngest daughter came into our lives, and I realized that she turned my life to the direction that I am supposed to be, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So let's move forward with the topics to be covered, and the first being the importance of self-care. And as of right now, I want you to begin thinking of self-care of something as of something you have the right to. Our inalienable rights tell us that you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The first step in taking care of yourself, though, is recognizing and acknowledging that you have the right to take care of yourself, the right to express how you feel, and the right to ask for help. Along with this topic, we're also going to look at how to create healthy boundaries and how to identify barriers. As parents, we need to remember to take care of ourselves. In order to take the best care of those who need us, whether they be children or grandparents or our own parents, we need to take care of ourselves first. To take this one step further in explaining, think of the airline attendants who begin each flight explaining flight safety. They talk about how in the event of loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling. They explain how to use them. There's a reason why they tell parents to put on their own oxygen masks first. As parents, we instinctively want to protect the well-being of our children. Without this advanced knowledge, though, we will instinctively put the needs of our child first. However, in doing so, it could lead to our own demise. If we don't take those preventative steps to maintain our own well-being, we will be of no help to anyone else in the time of crisis or at any time. In looking at ways to stay healthy, it's important to define what it is that can help us to keep healthy. To do this, we need to understand boundaries and barriers. So a boundary is something that indicates a limit, and a barrier is something that blocks the passage. I love this example because it shows when our boundaries are too weak, we can quickly become overwhelmed by taking on too much and too many. But when they're too tight, they can create a wall that keeps others from actually participating in our lives. When we have boundaries but don't stick to them, we can often become resentful because we feel we're being taken advantage of. But when we become well aware of what we can and cannot manage, and we learn to say no when we can't, and yes when we can, we've created healthy, balanced boundaries. In order to overcome barriers, we must first ask what our barriers are made of. Some have barriers made of fear, and fear keeps them from moving forward. Others have them in an attempt to avoid pain or truth, while others put up barriers in an effort to maintain control. I want you to look at this. Thoughts become feelings, feelings become actions, actions become results. Healthy boundaries are created when you know your limitations and honor what you are feeling. So how do you create healthy boundaries? You must start by knowing your own limits. How many times have you agreed to do something despite a feeling of dread that was washing over you just as you're agreeing to do it? When our boundaries are too loose, we will often agree to do things that will cause us great stress and great discomfort. For example, will it cause you to run late to an appointment? Will it be too far away from home? Is it too expensive? Will it require you to do more, such as cleaning your house? Recognize how something is making you feel. Knowing what you can or cannot do and knowing the feelings that occur when you take on too much will help you to build better boundaries and keep you from feeling resentment or unappreciated. So this is where you start with people you feel safe with, such as a close family member or that anonymous salesperson at a friend's Tupperware home party. When you're asked to do something, such as pick up your niece from a soccer practice on the longest day of work, or to host a home party and you're unable to identify, and you're able to identify anxiety rising in you through clenched teeth, shoulder tension, or that knot in your stomach, you can practice politely declining the request by simply stating, "Unfortunately, my schedule won't allow me to." But whatever you do, do not go on to apologize profusely or say, "But maybe next time." But maybe next time will quickly defeat any progress you just made in strengthening your boundaries. Practice self-awareness. Recognize how you're feeling and why. It is said that he who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened. If you recognize that you are not honoring your boundaries, ask yourself why. Sometimes life happens. So for example, in my own personal life, it's been very overwhelming, and I have recognized a lot of anxiety. I'm being pushed to the limit with a lot of doctor's appointments. My mom, within the last year, has been placed in a skilled nursing facility, and her health has greatly declined. My daughter, my youngest daughter, is constantly having various health problems. My dad's health has declined as a result of his own stress because of my mom's illness. And I have a job that I'm responsible to get to daily. So in this respect, it is hard for me to honor my boundaries because those closest to me need me. So I feel overwhelmed, and I feel like I need to take on everyone and everything, and I forget to honor myself. So in that case, in those moments, in that time, it is hard. But we need to continue to make ourselves a priority, even in the hardest and darkest of times. So you need to remember to give yourself permission to put yourself first, and this will motivate you to set stronger boundaries. Self-care is when making yourself the priority, even in small ways, is necessary. So give yourself permission to put yourself first. Now, going back to that, I think it was the second or third slide, do you remember the oxygen mask? Remember what I said about being available to help others? I said that if you don't take the preventative steps to maintain your own well-being, you will be of no help to anyone else in the time of crisis or at any time. So make yourself a priority. Take time for yourself and take note of how happy taking care of yourself can make you feel. This feeling of happiness will then give you the positive outlook required to be more available for others. Often as parents, as wives or husbands, we feel that we have to put everyone else ahead of us. This is why it is so important for us to validate the need in each other to stop and make time for self-care. I know that I personally appreciate it when my family confirms this need, and I so appreciate it when I hear professionals who are supporting parents and reminding them to take care of themselves. So in discussing this part of the training, I've had professionals whose offices I've broken down in because they validated to me that I need to take care of myself. And to hear a professional speak to me on a one-to-one basis and say, what are you doing for you? It's what a parent needs to hear, and it validates to them. Even though they'll say, I don't have time for that, it's still nice to hear that someone took the time to care about them. So, moving forward, does the thought of taking care of yourself already give you a feeling of guilt? A very wise man once told me something that's always stuck with me. He said, only you can make you feel guilty. And I want you to think about this, and I'm going to repeat it again. Only you can make you feel guilty. I've learned in life that things stick in my brain for a reason. I can honestly tell you that I don't remember very much else of what this man ever said to me, but these words stuck. And I can't tell you how many times I've self-talked my way through things that years ago would have left me with great guilt and probably stopped me from taking care of myself. So for example, my oldest daughter, who goes to UB, she thinks that she and I are still glued at the hip. She's 20, she is at UB, and she still thinks that she and I should do everything when she comes home. Everything should be done together as a unit. She's quite a mama's girl, and I'm very grateful for that. And while I want to appreciate her wanting to do things with me, there are times that I just want to do things with myself, for myself, and by myself. So when she looks at me and asks, why can't I go with you? It always left me with feelings of guilt because in the wake of her sister's ongoing medical concerns, she's also lost out on so many things. Therefore, it was always very hard to begin doing things just for myself or taking time just for myself. But reciting my mentor's mantra, only you can make you feel guilty, has helped me to let go of that guilt and enjoy me time, guilt-free. And to make it up to her, in addition to everything else we do together, we agree that at least once a month, and trust me, it's like every weekend, but at least once a month, she and I have a day that we spend together, just the two of us, doing girl things, shopping, lunch, whatever she wants. But it's a promise that if life happens at other times, we are committed to enjoying each other's company, if only for that day. And now that she's older, she gets why I need this time. She understands the stresses that raising a child who is medically frail can bring. So keep people around who will reinforce your boundaries and your need for self-care. Talk to a friend who will remind you that doing things for yourself is okay. By turning to people who support you this way, you can quickly shed those feelings of guilt, and you will be stronger for those you love. At 19 months of age, Helen Keller lost both her sight and hearing. Despite this, she went on in life to be one of the leading advocates in the 20th century for those with disabilities. One of her famous quotes says, "Walking with a friend in the dark is better than walking alone in the light." We need to try our best to allow ourselves to lean on others who care about our well-being during hard times, because walking this road alone can be very long and lonely and unhealthy. At this point, I just want to share a little bit. When I was reviewing this training this last time, I realized that all of this is very good self-care information, and I've always been very proactive on holistic healing and thinking and being proactive in holistic ways of dealing with loss, grief. But I do want to just share a personal point that this year was very challenging for me, and I've always been a person that always felt like I never needed medical intervention, that I thought being strong meant I could get through it using all of these techniques, and that medication was not something that was necessary. But after so many losses with my mom and my dad and my daughter, I finally got to a point where I talked with my physician and agreed to look into some pharmaceutical interventions, and I don't want to discredit that. I don't want you to think that you're weak if that is something that you need. And when I'm being most honest, since combining these practices and beginning the treatment of the use of an antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication under my doctor's care, I have to admit I like me and others a whole lot better. So just want you to look at all avenues of taking care of yourself and to know that you're as strong as you can be in whatever self-care that you need, as long as it's in a healthy way and you're utilizing practical measures and healthy measures. So moving forward, and I hope that in the past for others who have taken it that I didn't discredit that, but I did want to bring that in to the fold because I feel like I did people a disservice in the past. So moving forward, my hope is that to this point you've begun to see how healthy boundaries and self-care give you the life balance you need to be mentally, emotionally, and physically available for the ones you love. All right, so we're going to move forward with finding what relaxes you. Whether it's exercise, relaxation techniques, or yoga, all of these things can help increase energy and decrease stress levels. And here I want you to begin thinking of how you can work on you. What is something that you can do for yourself or offers to others to do for themselves as a way to reduce stress? What relaxes you? Remember earlier when we learned about boundaries, I suggested you start with something small, and I want you to apply the same thing here. Think of something you can do for 5 minutes, something you can do for 1 hour maybe, then eventually something you can do for an entire evening. These things should be something that stops your brain and gives you a break. So at this time, I'd like you to take a minute to think about something that we can do for ourselves, and using the chat pane, I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on what you can do, whether it's for 5 minutes, for 1 hour, or an entire evening. And in a minute, Pam will read out loud some of your thoughts. I'm going to share something that I've found that relaxes me, and that's just taking time to play with my dogs. I have a 92-pound German Shepherd and a 32-pound mutt, and they're both goofy and love to be outside, and that playtime, whether I can only get in 5 minutes or it extends to much longer, it just always works to unwind me. And I just enjoy that time with them. So at this point, if you can share your thoughts or your ideas and what you could possibly do or what you do, Pam will read those out loud.
Teresa says a foot soak while reading. That does sound like something that would be relaxing and something to keep your mind off of whatever else might be troubling you. Coloring. I actually was visiting my folks a few weeks ago, and they live in a facility apartment complex for older adults, and there were a number of people doing coloring, and I thought that looked especially pleasurable and relaxing. So I think there was even a book, Coloring for Adults. It looked like
adult coloring books are the rage.
I know. I loved coloring when I was little, so why not take it up again? It's a kind of a soothing thing. Yep, someone just put adult coloring books on the list. So okay, if others come in, Linda, I will share them the next time with your next segment. Okay, thanks.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's see. So I know very well how hard it can be to find the time and energy to work on you when everything and everyone else requires so much of you. And when you have a child with special health care needs, there's just no such thing as avoiding hard times. During these times, it's easy to shut down, give in, or be overwhelmed, and this is exactly why you need to know your limits. Having boundaries and asking for help when you are feeling overwhelmed can help reduce stress. If you walk away from this webinar with anything, I want you to remember this. Focusing on your child's strengths will trigger memories and reinforce what you already know about them. Their resiliency, their bravery, their spirit, perhaps even their smile or a sound they make when they are happy. And be mindful to keep communication open and to talk things over with your partner, friend, or family member. This can keep you from spiraling into depression. You have to maintain your sense of humor. Sometimes humor seems inappropriate during stressful times, but there's a reason why we have the saying, laughter is the best medicine. When we laugh, we release serotonin to our brain, and this chemical release helps not only our mood, but our thinking process as well. Connecting with people who get it will validate your fears, concerns, even grief. It is important to recognize here that if you seek support from parents through a support group, not all support groups will match your needs. Try different ones in order to find your best fit. Find something to believe in. Something that will keep you going, whatever works for you, whether it's your faith, a mantra, or reminding yourself all that you can be grateful for. In our house, my daughter has seizures every day. Instead of counting every single one and dwelling on those, we have accepted them as part of who she is, and every day that she can go to school and doesn't have a seizure that requires emergency medication is a great day and one that we count as success. Teddy Roosevelt once said, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." Whatever you do, don't stop believing in yourself or your child's abilities. Oftentimes, we are stronger than we know. So what else can we do to help us cope with our child's health care needs? Make goals to educate yourself, whether it's in his or her medical care, advocacy, or to learn what resources are available. Educating yourself on your child's condition by seeking credible resources can help reduce fear and anxiety. It's important to note here that sometimes during this phase, we will also learn things that make us more fearful, especially when there are many unknown possibilities. It's important to remember that no one can, with 100% accuracy, know how our particular child's illness will progress. Upon my daughter's diagnosis, I was told that my daughter would probably never walk, probably never talk, and we would probably institutionalize her when she's older for behaviors. She was 5 months old. My daughter's particular disorder can literally range from people living with it as doctors, lawyers, and teachers, all the way to severely affected individuals who have no ability to move, eat, or talk, and who have very short lifespans. If we had listened to this person, all of our hope could have been taken away in seconds. Thankfully, as a social worker, I knew to seek out credible sources and to get as much information from them as possible, and thankfully I did not allow this to affect our dreams for her. Believe it or not, I'm actually very grateful that we had that experience of receiving such a horrible prognosis, because it drove me to become the expert in my daughter's life, and I was able to find her the best care and have the resources to teach others about her and her diagnosis. And while she doesn't talk, she can communicate with us in her own way, and she began walking independently at 26 months. And she is a happy 14-year-old who loves to be with people. With that said, let's take a look at how practicing gratitude can benefit us in our daily lives. Gratitude is probably, to be honest, how I get through life. It's one of my absolute favorite topics. A study from the University of Utah reports that patients dealing with illness have a better health outcome when they maintain an attitude of gratitude. As parents, when we find the little things in life to appreciate, we can build that into finding increased overall happiness in a life that can otherwise be challenging. In the same study, it was found that grateful people are more proactive, and as an advocate for your child, being proactive will allow you to act in advance of a future situation. This means that you take greater control in making things happen, rather than waiting for something to happen to you. Robert Emmons from the University of California, Davis, found that in crisis, practicing gratitude can make the difference between sinking into despair or experiencing recovery and growth. I've often been asked, how do you do it? My answer is always the same. If I let myself be consumed with how bad my daughter's health is, I'd curl up into a ball and never recover. And it's not that I don't allow myself to dwell there, and I'll go into this a little more in a bit, but I found that by focusing on what my daughter can do and how I can help her to be her healthiest and happiest, I ease my mind into a place where I can focus on her and not fold into myself and allow her disorder to take me over on a more permanent level. Because if I do that, it wins. Developing a positive outlook by practicing gratitude can help you build a buffer from stress, crisis, and difficulty. So that when times of increased stress do occur, we are better able to respond and hopefully bounce back. So how do we adjust our gratitude? Remember earlier when we talked about barriers? We learned that we use barriers when we are fearful, avoiding, or trying to control everything. By recognizing that these barriers are keeping us from a more positive way of living, we can practice finding the little things in life to be grateful for. This slide shows two circles, one with examples of things we can control and one with things we cannot control. It gives me a visual and acts as a reminder of how I'm in control of such things, and acts as a reminder of how I am in control of how much I know about my daughter's disability. I am in control of my own actions. I am not in control of what the weather will be like today, nor the price of gas, although I do like where it's headed. I may not like these things, but I recognize they are beyond my control. To explain this further, despite trying nearly every seizure medication on the market and despite brain surgery, seizures of nearly every type affect my daughter daily. They have caused significant cognitive and physical losses. By acknowledging that we will likely never have control over her seizures, I have accepted them as part of our daily lives. Just like I can't control the weather or change the past, I have to accept that it is what it is so that it doesn't control my happiness. And my happiness is something that I can control. My attitude is something I can control. And it's not to say that you won't have bad days. As a parent of a child who struggles, I have bad days. And it's okay to allow yourself these bad days, but recognizing these days is very important. I call them my reset days. These typically occur after a new diagnosis has been given or when my daughter has been struggling for an extended period of time. I take a day to stay to myself. I interact very little. I lay in bed watching mindless TV in a very dark room. I give myself that day. And while my sadness never leaves my heart, I give myself permission for one day to dwell in that sadness and feel that sadness. But then the deal is, I move on and I find things to be grateful for. A study on gratitude asked participants to partake in various types of gratitude. Some practiced daily gratitude, others weekly, and others were told to focus on negatives. Out of those practicing daily and weekly gratitude and those who focused on negativity, who do you think had the ability to be there for others? Of course, it was those who practiced daily gratitude. A daily gratitude intervention resulted in higher reported levels of the positive states of alertness, enthusiasm, determination, attentiveness, and energy compared to a focus on daily hassles. Compared to participants who were instructed to focus on negativity, those who used the daily gratitude intervention were more likely to report having helped someone with a personal problem or having offered emotional support to another person. Studies also show that people who keep a daily gratitude journal experience increased life satisfaction. At this time, I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'd like for you to take this time to write down something you're grateful for. Write down anything that made life a little easier today or that you found yourself to especially enjoy. Maybe it was the coffee you had this morning. Maybe it was that we're not experiencing 2 feet of snow in the month of February. Anything that made you, even for a brief moment, take pleasure in. And when you have this written, I want you to sit back and think about it for a few seconds. I want you to recognize how it makes you feel, both emotionally and physically. And I want you to remember these feelings. Would any of you be willing to share what it is you're grateful for? If you are, please use the chat pane now to type in what you're grateful for, and Pam will begin reading some of those out loud.
While people are thinking about that, Linda, I'll give you a couple of other examples of things that people can do that they have shared about relaxation or taking time for themselves. And one was listening to uplifting CDs, and the other was doing puzzles.
Nice.
And then some things that people are grateful for, parents, family, sons. Ooh, getting out of a bad relationship. Well, being alive and experiencing life. The ability to sit and enjoy this webinar. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad that people are able to sit and enjoy the webinar and hopefully take away some good advice and some techniques on how to take good care of yourself.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for sharing. Sometimes you'll also find that by sharing your attitude of gratitude with others, it will in turn get others to begin thinking more deeply about their own lives, and they begin to find things to be grateful for. My best friend is always, she says it begrudgingly, but she's always, complaining to me that how do you always find things to be grateful for? But then in turn, she's always saying that it's always making her become more grateful because of having me finding these things to be grateful for, because we'll be going for a walk and I'll be kicking leaves and commenting on what great sounds they're making, and she's just always commenting, you're always finding these little things in life to enjoy. How do you do it? But then I catch her finding those moments. So it's really a neat thing, and it can be very contagious. So it's kind of neat when you start picking up on those cues in your life. So now we're going to switch gears. Now that we've done that positive reflection, I want you to now take a moment and think about something negative. And how does this negative thought impact you not only emotionally, but physically? So take a few minutes to think about which feeling you want to experience more. Can you see how the daily practice of writing down things you're grateful for can affect not only your mind, but your body? When you keep a gratitude journal, it should be easy and not just one more thing that you have added to your already overwhelming list of things to do in your day. It's recommended that each day you write down 3 things that you're grateful for, and they be quick and simple things. And believe it or not, this practice can help you in gaining control over the negativity in your life, and it will be easier to let those negative things go. And each day you'll find more and more things to be grateful for until negatives impact you only in small ways, because you are in control of how they make you feel. So going back to you can tell Helen Keller's one of my favorite people. She said that character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. If she can overcome the adversities in her life to go on and inspire people all over the world, my hope is that each one of us can find gratitude in our lives too. Does anyone have any questions?
Actually, Linda, there was a question, I believe, about the gratitude journal.
Sure.
Teresa was wondering, would you recommend that someone do it in the morning or at the end of the day?
It's totally up to you. I personally like mine at the end of the day, but I also have friends who keep theirs in their phone and they write them all throughout the day as they're happening.
So I think whatever strategy works for you is the one that you should employ. And it might vary. Yeah. Maybe some days you want to do it in the morning, some days you want to do it in the evening.
Yeah, I personally like for mine, it's a reflection of the day. Um, but other people find it works in the moment. So it's totally up to you and what works for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think
If anyone has any questions, or comments, or you want to carry on the discussion further, my contact information is right now at the bottom of the screen, my email.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions or comments coming in at this point in time. And as Linda has said, you can certainly contact her directly using the email address that's on the screen. The
Okay.
recording of today's webinar will be posted on our website sometime in the next couple of days. The handouts, the slides, are there already in the link that I posted. And at this point, I'm going to post the links to the 2 surveys that we would like you to fill out. If you could do them right now, that would be great. And if you don't have time now, you'll get an email tomorrow with a reminder and those links in there. I also have a question that says, I mentor and blog support for other parents. Can I share this information with them? So I would think, Linda, that we would like this information to be available to whoever can benefit from it. So when you get the follow-up email tomorrow, well, the link was posted, as I said, in the chat pane. If you go to the Starbridge website and go to webinar resources, you'll see maintaining caregiver wellness is one of the choices, and you could just send a link to the page for that for this particular topic. And once the webinar has been posted there, people can watch the webinar and
Yeah.
look at the materials. And I think the materials might not stand alone because there's so much that you discuss as part of the presentation. So the recording is going to be very beneficial to folks.
Yeah.
So thank you for that question, and we would be thrilled if you want to share this with others that could benefit from it. So as I said, let me grab the links.
I don't want Pam to sign off without saying thank you to everyone who participated. And everyone have a wonderful day.
Okay, so as I said, hang on for just a minute. There's the first link for the first survey, and now I'm going to post the second link. And I will leave the webinar open for a little bit so that you can use those links to do the surveys if you'd like to do them right away. And as I said, if that doesn't work for you, you'll be getting a follow-up email tomorrow, which will have links to the same surveys. So you only need to do them once, so you can either do them today or tomorrow. But thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you in another Starbridge event sometime in the future, another webinar or perhaps an in-person event. And we appreciate your giving us some of your time today to participate in the webinar.
Thank you.